Right. Welcome, everyone. It's like we have a full house today. Hopefully you all can hear me. The chat is open. If you all can let me know if you can see our presentation window and hear our voices. Hi, everyone. Oh my goodness, everybody's just pouring in. This is great. All right. Our chat is open. If you all would take a moment, say hello. We welcome you. We would love to hear where you all are from. If you want to take a second and just drop your general location into the chats. Oh my goodness, I'm seeing Greece, Ohio, Sri Lanka, Germany. They're moving really fast. I'm just catching I'm just catching them all as they run by. All right. I think we've got everybody in who's going to be in here live in the webinar today. And hopefully we've got our folks joining us live on YouTube. It's always an option to join the YouTube live at the same time as the webinar if you can't make it into the room or if you get kicked from the room. I will go over all of the details here in a sec. Welcome, everyone. Let us know where you're from. And we'll go ahead and get started. All right. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Today, Aptly is presenting Mastering Prompting Skills for Social Media Marketers. A few things to note. There's been overwhelming interest in this webinar. There are limited spots. We expect the event to be full. If you get disconnected, never fear. If you try to get back in, it actually will direct you to the YouTube live stream. So if the room is full when you try to get back in, you won't miss anything. Just go ahead and click over to the YouTube live. You'll be able to see the same program. We'll put the link in the chat here for the YouTube channel. If you want to go ahead and save it ahead of time, please subscribe. The recording will be available immediately after this live event if you wanted to go back in and check any part out. We will also be recording this session and we'll send the link out to everybody who's registered tomorrow. So you can access the live right from our YouTube channel immediately today, or wait till the email comes through tomorrow from us with the recording link. You can ask questions in the Q&A section here in Zoom. This month, we're doing it a little bit differently. The questions aren't visible to everybody right from the start, but we'll be receiving them behind the scenes. We just felt it was a little bit chaotic with the chat and the Q&A. We have a lot of questions that learners sent to us as part of the registration process. We've grouped them all together and, created some kind of overarching questions that are representative of the types of questions that were asked in the registration. And we will also try to catch as many Q&A questions as we can from today. One thing that is our hope is that any questions that we aren't able to answer today, that, we get a lot of requests for, what about this or what about that? We're going to be in the Facebook group, our Aptly Learner Facebook group, over the next couple of weeks to answer some of the questions that have come out of these AMAs that we didn't get to in the live event. So if you have not joined our Facebook group, we will put that in the chat as well. So scroll back if you need to, find the YouTube channel, subscribe, find our Facebook group, subscribe. Both of them will have, new things and updates coming that are directly from Aptly and from Anka and Rebecca. Okay, so as we are getting started, I'd love to introduce Anka Adenart, one of our founders and the CEO of Aptly. Anka is also a teacher in our social media marketing and analytics programs, so some of you may know her already. And also joining us is our co-founder, Rebecca Lipinski. She is the CEO of Aptly, and Rebecca's career has included teaching and social media agency experience as well. Both of them bring a wealth of information about social media and are both very interested in AI and how it applies in the social media space. So we're excited to be here today to discuss how crafting great AI prompts can help you level up your social media efforts. And with that, I will pass it along to Anka. Before I do, I'm going to put up a couple of poll questions and I'll give them a few minutes and they'll be there. You don't have to answer them, but they're there if you would like to answer them. And I will also put the results up probably after Anka's presentation. So never fear, you will see the results. I just don't want it to be too distracting while we're in the midst. So Anka, go ahead and take it away. I'm going to put the poll questions up. Thank you all very much for being here.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Eileen. And thank you all for joining us, of course. I see that you're all answering where you're joining from, and I am joining you from lovely Palo Alto in California, where it actually looks like it's going to start raining soon. So you may think of California as very sunny. Today it isn't. Usually it is. But well, thanks a lot for coming to this webinar, for joining us. We chose this topic, prompting in social media marketing, just because we feel that AI is starting to be or to prove to be so helpful to us marketers, but it really is only as helpful as your prompts are, basically. So it will be a really good tool for you if you get the right prompts to interact with these tools. So I will present for about 30 minutes here, and then after that, we will switch to our Q&A session. So to answer some of the questions that you've already passed on to us. So what will we focus on today in those 30 minutes? We'll look at just why prompting matters. Then I'll highlight what makes a good prompt. And after that, we'll focus on framework and some techniques that you can use to make your prompts work for you. And then finally, we'll also take a look at prompt variations for common social media marketing tasks. So with that, you may have attended actually our last webinar already, where we explored kind of how AI is transforming social media marketing. But just to recap, we saw that AI can help us with many different tasks that we do on a daily basis as social media marketers. So that may be content creation, generating audience insights, kind of optimizing our campaigns, and just it helps us to make faster decisions all around. But we also saw that AI is already embedded in many of the tools that we use every day. So basically, tools that we use to brainstorm posts, target the right audience, etc. But also tools that can help us generate, say, videos or images. So we talked about tools like Adobe Firefly, for instance, or Canva. So those are the types of tools that we can use AI in nowadays. All of those, though, often rely on prompting. So if you do this well, then you will get good results out of those tools. We also saw how AI is already built into tools that we use to build campaigns, like, for instance, Meta's Ads Manager. But these generative AI tools, they're not really replacing us, they are helping us, they're amplifying what we do. But here's the thing, you're really interacting with these technologies. And when you interact, you want to make sure that your kind of prompting and the way that you ask questions is as good as possible so that your interaction partner here can also really provide you with the best results possible. So the difference between average and great AI outputs will often come down to the words that you feed it or how good you are at directing the tools. So you'll also find that that's exactly where your marketing skills come in, because the way that you ask your questions will be based on the background that you have in marketing. So you'll kind of know what to ask just because you know the marketing frameworks. You've learned what a typical social media marketing process looks like. So you know what your next step is, you know what to ask next. And that's really where it's helpful to take kind of courses like the ones that we teach. And some of you may already have taken some of our courses on Coursera or edX. It just helps to have that background to then interact well with AI. And you'll also find that as you go through those courses, more and more you'll find pointers there on how to use AI throughout the whole process as a social media marketer or as a marketing analyst, a data analyst, etc. So why do you really need prompting? It really will help you to unlock what AI can do for you, right? AI can help you kind of create dozens of ad variations in minutes instead of hours, right? So it can really help you to achieve scale, but to do it, you need to be able to prompt well. It can help you to personalize your campaigns, but again, it will help you tailor your tone and style and all of that. But again, only if you put in a good prompt. It'll help you to be more efficient, so cutting brainstorming time so that you can focus on your strategy. And it can actually give you that strategic value because AI can do kind of all the groundwork for you, which gives you more time to kind of make your big picture marketing decisions. So if you can prompt well, it's really it is becoming kind of a core skill for marketers if they want to stay ahead. It's important. So then actually the question becomes, what makes a good prompt? So not all prompts are created equal. Some give you generic and uninspired outputs, while others will really unlock kind of that clarity, that creativity, and the results that AI can provide you to come up with good campaigns. But there are a few things you need to keep in mind for that to really happen. So let's break down those elements of what makes an effective prompt. Um, and there's really a few. When you're writing prompts, there are basically four elements that will make the difference between flat or effective results. The first element is precision. You want to direct the AI with exactly what it is that you need. So the more precise you can be in your demand, the better the result will be that you get. The second part that's really important is you need to give AI context. So AI has a lot of information. It's trained on a lot of data, but it may not know specifically what your brand is all about, what audience you're trying to target, or what your campaign goals are. So you need to provide that context. And having that context for your brand is very important. We talked about that a little bit last time. AI can actually help you to specify or kind of put boundaries around your audience, your target audience, or your marketing goals, or kind of help you be clearer about what your brand really stands for. But that information is essential in the context that you provide AI so that it has a good kind of framework to work in to help you achieve your best marketing messages or help you analyze your data, etc. The third factor is you have to also put some boundaries in place. So that really means that you have to guide the AI to tell it, like, hey, when you provide a result to me, I would like to have that result have this kind of tone, or I want it to have this kind of word count, for instance, or it has to fit this platform. So you have to give it those boundaries so it can come up with something that's actually useful for you. And then the fourth factor is really, it's a slightly different factor here, but it really is exploration. It's one of the things that is really important. Like, do not stop after you get the first answer. You want to ask for variations, you want to try different angles, you want to look at different options, and that happens in how you interact with AI. So you get an answer back, and then you're further going to explore kind of some next steps. So keep this in mind, and you'll actually get consistently good outputs. Let's look at kind of what that could mean. Say, here's a bad prompt, or bad, like, well, it's not really entirely bad, but it's not a great one. Let's put it that way. Here I wrote, like, let's write an Instagram caption for the launch of our new water bottle. So what do you get back? I get some kind of nice post captions back, but when you really read through these, kind of feel a bit generic. And ChatGPT definitely used some liberties here in judging what my new water bottle here was all about. So it says here, say, meet your new everyday essential. Our brand new water bottle is here, designed to keep you hydrated, stylish, and sustainable. You can kind of argue that that's probably true for most water bottles. Whether you're at the gym, at work, or an adventure, this bottle has your back. It's available now. Tap the link in the bio to grab yours. So it is clearly an Instagram post. It does kind of match all of those requests, but it could probably have been better. I should say though that with this type of prompt, if you were to use this kind of prompt, let's say 2 years back, the result you would have gotten would have been way less than what I'm showing you here. So AI tools have gotten a lot better, and I use ChatGPT here, so you can use any tool, right? You can use Gemini, you can use maybe Claude or something like that. But these tools have gotten a lot better, and they're giving you something that kind of works pretty well, even though my prompt wasn't amazing. But that doesn't mean that a better prompt cannot give you a better output. So let's take a look at what that might mean. So if I put a good prompt together, like for instance, write 3 Instagram captions under 20 words in a playful, witty tone for the launch of our 100% leak-proof, eco-friendly water bottle targeting college students. So you already see here that I've given a lot more information. This prompt is precise. It adds context. It defines the audience. It also adds some boundaries. So it says that the tone should be witty and playful, and it pushes the AI to be creative and explore different options. So that explore element is already kind of captured in my prompt. And the result, so instead of a rather bland post that could work for just any water bottle, you get multiple witty captions that actually sound like they belong in your campaign. So here I have kind of compared to a previous one, right? So you here like survives finals, all-nighters, and campus commutes, unlike your GPA. That's a very college targeted caption. Good work. And it's kind of witty and probably to some also funny. The other caption I get is eco friendly, leak proof, and cheaper than your daily coffee. Or hydrate like a champ, spill tea, not water. So there are like so these are kind of a little bit more. They use some wordplay. They're more in the language of what a college person would look for, and it really plays on that 100% leak-proof element. In my bad prompt, I'd forgotten to kind of give them that information, so the specifics about my product weren't even really there. So that's kind of where some of these elements of good prompting versus not so great prompting come in. Now you may wonder, like, well, but if I'm going to do this every time, like, how do I make sure that my prompts are actually such that I get the best results out of that? And I, as you've probably seen in many of our courses, I like to use frameworks. Like, if I have a framework or a blueprint, like something that I can use over and over, that just helps me stay on target. I like those. So we have a framework for prompting as well. And the framework that I personally like to use is just the CCC prompt framework. It's an easy thing. It kind of reflects what we've just talked about in terms of good prompts versus bad prompts. But here's what it really does. It says if you want to create a good prompt, you'll need context, a command, and you need constraints. I usually, in my prompts, I like to start with context. I give the AI the brand background, the target audience, and my campaign objective. These are the things that usually, if you put your social media marketing strategy together, we typically walk students through the steps that you need to take to do that. And a lot of that involves, like, first, reflecting on your brand background. What's my brand all about? What is the kind of the brand story? What is my kind of what's my logo look like? What are my brand values? What are the colors and the fonts that I like to use? How does my brand like to talk? So all of those things we reflect on. And usually we put that all in like our brand guidelines. So we have some background around our brand. Then we also do a lot of work around defining your target audience, because ultimately we know as marketers that you cannot really appeal to everyone. That's not the idea of marketing. You would love it probably, but it's not really what we're all about. We want to really speak to our specific target audience. We believe there's an audience out there that wants our product, that will benefit of our product, and that's our target audience. And then we have our campaign objective. We know what we want to achieve, whether that's with a paid campaign or with an organic campaign. We've got some goals in mind. So that's our context. So that's the first part that's really important. Provide context in your prompt. Next, the command. You really have to tell AI what to do. Like, and you have to tell it kind of very clearly and crisply what you want it to do. Do you want it to write a caption? Do you want it to brainstorm with you? Do you want it to analyze data? Do you want it to summarize something? Formulate that command. And then finally, you're going to add some constraints. So here we have to think about, like, how do you want AI to provide an output to you? Should there be word limits? Is there kind of a certain tone that you want, a style? Is it platform specific? So those are the three things that you're going to think about. So this simple structure will ensure that your prompts are complete and that they're actionable and that they provide you with good results. So let's look at a simple prompt that follows this framework. Again, we're going back to our water bottle caption, and we followed that framework. So here I said, write 3 Instagram captions. We saw this prompt before, under 20 words in a playful, witty tone for our 100% leak-proof, eco-friendly water bottle targeting college students. So we already saw this prompt, and I said it was a good prompt. So now let's actually look at what we did here in terms of our framework. First, we gave ChatGPT context. We described that we're launching a new 100% leak-proof and eco-friendly water bottle, and we provided our target audience. In this case, it's college students, and we specified that we were launching a new product. We could actually have been even more precise here by adding context around our brand. The way that I typically do that, and you don't see that in my prompt here, but I usually just attach my brand guidelines. So I have like a summary document that describes my brand. I add that to the prompt. I just attach that so that ChatGPT knows like, hey, this is kind of the brand framework I'm working in. So you could have done that here in the prompt. This is something that usually adds additional context. And then we could have added potentially even more about the goal for our launch as well. We could have said that we're trying to generate buzz for the product, reach as many people, for instance. But overall, the context here that we provided is pretty good. We then also wrote a very clear command. We said we want 3 Instagram captions. So that immediately tells us, okay, 3 outcomes, but they have to be specifically for Instagram, and ChatGPT knows what that means. And then we also added some constraints. We said that these captions should be under 20 words. They should use a playful and a witty tone. So that's kind of really, so that's how we got to this kind of the responses that we got, right? So this is what my framework led me to do. Now you may think like, well, when you talked about that kind of a good prompt versus a bad prompt, you also said that there was this exploration phase, and that's not quite captured in my framework. And actually, that is something that gets captured in what we call kind of techniques that you can use in prompting. So let's take a look what that means. So we said in the exploration phase that you shouldn't stop with the first answer you're getting. You should actually start interacting some with ChatGPT or with your tool that you're using and try to see whether you can get even better outcomes or more creative outcomes, kind of have that type of interaction that you may have experienced in meetings with colleagues or in even a chat with friends, where you say, hey, I've got this idea and this is my idea and I think it's great. And your friend says like, hey, but have you thought about this? Or how about if you would put it in this framework? Or how about that? So that's really what these exploration techniques are going to do for you. And the first technique that I like to use is role-based prompting. So that's a technique that makes your prompts even more powerful. And it's really telling the AI to take on a certain role to help me out. Instead of just asking AI to give me good ideas using a particular prompt, I assign it a role. So I might say, hey, AI, act as a copywriter, or act as a social media strategist, or act as a community manager. And you can get an output that's going to be more professional and relevant and in line with certain industry best practices. So for example, I could say, act as a TikTok strategist and suggest 5 video ideas to boost engagement for a coffee brand targeting Gen Z. So that role assignment will instantly give the AI a little bit more direction. And it also is kind of a way to smartly kind of expand your team, right? So, because we think about roles that you wished you had on your team, and you ask the AI to kind of act like that person now. So you don't have all these people in the team. It's like for us, like Aptly is, like, yeah, we are a smaller company, And sometimes we have certain roles. We're like, yeah, we don't have that role in the company, but we can have AI help us and act a little bit like that person for us. So that's something that you do in role-based prompting. So that was an example of a role-based prompt. Let's go back to our water bottle example and see how it might play out there. I asked ChatGPT here to now act as a social media copywriter for Gen Z brands. And then I reiterated my prompt and let's see what comes back. So I get a kind of a different output here. It says new semester, new bottle, 100% leak proof, 100% main character energy. Stay hydrated. So you see how these kind of results are getting a little bit more sophisticated, even just because I assigned my AI a role here. I told it like, hey, take on, like, wear this hat. And now you're the Gen Z copywriter. Let's see what that brings us. So that's kind of the type of thing you can do with role-based prompting. So that's a technique to make your prompts even better. So you keep your framework in mind, CCC framework, and then you can think about, okay, can I add something to it? Yes, I could do role-based prompting. Then when you get results back, the other thing that you should keep in mind is another technique is iterative prompting. And this is something that we ourselves here at Aptly do all the time. You can kind of create even more powerful results by iterating on a result you already got. So you get a particular result, and then you're going to have a conversation with AI. Rather than trying to get a perfect answer in one shot, you think like, hey, I can actually get kind of more answers later on. And you can use this to use a core idea and then try to kind of go broader on that idea. Like, for instance, you can say, draft a blog intro for me. And then you can refine it and say, well, maybe I also want shorter versions of what you've already provided me. You provided me with a blog intro. Now I would like a shorter version, like a tagline that I can use. Or you can ask, hey, give me a call to action that's really related to the kind of prompt that I gave you the first time. So each step can get you closer to the exact output you need. So you may be working around one particular campaign, in our case, the launch of this water bottle, and you can say, okay, I've got this kind of great Instagram caption, but now I want to have a call to action, or now I want to create a post that I can use in a kind of a blog that I'm going to write about water bottles and the importance of staying hydrated or something along those lines. So let's see how this could kind of work out for our water bottle example. Here, what I did is I said, well, just give me 5 more options that use humor and wordplay. So that's another thing you can do. You can just say, hey, I got some Instagram captions here, but I just want to get more. So you can ask it to provide you with more and get more options out of AI. So that's kind of a way to further iterate on the result that you already had. Or you could also say, now shorten these to under 12 words and make them punchier. So that's again something that AI can do for you in iterative prompting. And I get punchier taglines. So another iteration on the first prompt that I've given it. Or I could also say add 2 hashtags for each caption to boost discoverability among college students. And actually, you can see what I've done here. I said, I want hashtags, but these hashtags should boost kind of the discoverability, which means like these hashtags should relate to the stuff that's trendy among the college audience, right? And that's exactly what ChatGPT comes back to with me here. So I get kind of new elements that help me to make my captions even better by iterating on the prompts that I gave it first. So that's kind of what we're kind of looking at when we're trying to work with our AI tools. And I'm here talking about primarily using a ChatGPT, for instance, but you could use these same systems in, say, Copilot, or you could use it even when you are trying to create images or videos, and you do this in, say, Adobe Firefly, who's also working with these kinds of captions. So you can write your, or these kinds of prompts. So if you write your prompt there again, you can iterate on your prompt. You can use this same framework and it'll help you to get better image results. So this doesn't only apply to text. Now let's look at some of the common tasks that we go through as social media marketers, things that we know we have to do, and let's see how prompting and this framework can help us. So one of the most common uses of prompting in social media marketing is, of course, for copywriting, as we just showed, right? So a good prompt can give you multiple variations that you can test, refine, adapt. So it saves you hours of time generating new ideas. You can think of AI as kind of your fast, always available copywriter, really. And you can still choose what the best kind of copy is for your post, but you've got an assistant there in AI. Again, for copywriting, our CCC framework works really well. So here I just show an example. This is a different one from the Instagram example we had. So for instance, I can say write 5 LinkedIn headlines for a B2B webinar on AI in personal finance, for instance. Again, here, the context is that we're creating LinkedIn headlines for a B2B webinar on AI in personal finance. I should add a brand here. I should add the target audience here. And then the command is clear. So write 5 headlines. And then there are some constraints here. It should be kept professional, concise, and under 12 words. When it comes to copy, so when you're using the CCC framework for copywriting, constraints really matter a lot. So that's really where you're going to say word count, the tone you want, the platform fit. That's really important for the copy. So without those boundaries, AI will often give you something that's too long or too casual, not really usable. So as a copywriter, you really need to think about, okay, what boundaries do I put in place? So that really matters a lot here. You can also prompt for visuals. So AI can help us with visual direction. While you may not design kind of every asset directly with AI, you can use it to brainstorm creative ideas. You can mock up concepts or brief your design team. Or you may decide to create images and videos with specialized tools like we mentioned, like for instance, Adobe. When you do this, you could use a prompt like, for instance, generate 3 Canva-ready concepts for an Instagram carousel for sunlux on summer skincare tips. Highlight visuals over text. And again, here you can attach your brand guidelines to make sure that the AI knows what the sunlux brand in this case is all about. So you give it all of that information. You can also attach if you have it, your audience persona so that AI can really target this to your persona. And then you can ask AI for the visuals, and your CCC framework is again just as helpful. So here the context is critical. Is this an Instagram carousel you're creating? Is it for a TikTok video, YouTube thumbnail? What's the brand's look and feel? Without this, AI will just give you designs that might be totally off brand. So the command is simple, generate 3 concepts, and the constraints make it actionable. So it should be Canva ready in this case, visual first, not text heavy. So for visuals, the context is going to usually be kind of the make or break element in the CCC framework. So the more brand details and audience cues that you add, the more usable kind of the creative will be that you get back. Then you can also prompt for engagement. And engagement is really where you are seeking interaction from your audience. So that's where AI can help you again to scale kind of your community management. Context here is that kind of in this case for this post, I can, for instance, say my prompt is suggest 5 witty one-line replies to a customer who just posted a picture of our sneakers. The context here is that the customer posted about the sneakers on Instagram. Again, ideally, your brand guidelines are attached. Maybe your audience is attached as well. And the command is to come up with 5 one-line replies, but the constraints are especially important here. Replies should be witty, short, and consistent with the brand tone. So here again, constraints really matter. So in the CCC framework, if you think about community management tasks, often the constraints will be really the most important part of the prompt. You set the tone, you say kind of what kind of tone you want, how you want to respond, so that any of your responses are not off-brand or insensitive or too formal, too informal, kind of depending on what your brand really is all about. And then you can also prompt to analyze data. So you may be working on analytics and reporting, and that's again where AI can come in and be super helpful for us. So one of the prompts that you might use here, for instance, is summarize the top 3 insights from this engagement report, which you then attach and suggest action items. So the context here is the actual data or the report that you provide, right? So you attach that, and then AI cannot invent in insights. So you really have to give it the data, right? So it has that, and then it will work through that. And you've clearly put a command in that said, identify the top 3 insights and suggest action steps for me. And the constraints here are they help to ensure that the business or the output that you get is kind of business ready, right? You want it to be concise, plain language, easy to share. So you can add those elements as well if you have kind of desires like that in terms of the output that you get. So in analytics, the context is going to be really what matters the most. So the better the data you provide, the sharper and the more actionable your results are going to be. So that is kind of a typical, like a typical point that most of analysts will recognize. So you know that the better your data that go in, the better the insights are that you're going to get. So definitely make sure that you use all those reports, etc., that you get from all your marketing actions. So with that, let's kind of sum up what we've gone through. We've seen how prompting is important to get the most out of AI in marketing, and how a framework like CCC can give you really reliable results. Techniques like role-based prompting or iterative prompting can then help to further sharpen those results. And whether you're writing copy or brainstorming visuals, engaging with your audience, or analyzing data, the prompts are going to be the bridge between you and better outcomes. So the most important thing to remember is that the more you practice this, the better you'll get. So try these prompts, test them, learn from the output, and then try to improve. And that's really the best way to kind of get a real feel of how you can make the most out of AI as your creative partner and your partner in all of the different social media marketing tasks that you're going to face. So I hope that this framework, and when you keep that in mind, and some of these techniques will help you, but practicing will really be what will make you kind of strong in kind of prompting and working with AI. So with that, I'm going to hand it over back to Eileen, and then we will go through some questions that you've already sent in.
Thanks so much, Anka. That was wonderful. And I do just have one poll that I'm going to put up, and it's a little bit of an open-ended poll. The other ones have been multiple choice. I'm going to leave this poll up through the end of the event today. So if you guys can take a look at it when you get a chance, please focus on the questions and answers too. I'm sure we've got some great stuff coming up, but it's just a quick little question about future topics you might like to see. So I'm going to go ahead and launch that now, and then I'm going to hand it back over to Rebecca and Anka, and Rebecca is going to help to moderate the Q&A and ask the questions. So it'll be a bit of a conversation. And again, thank you all for being here. Back to you guys, Anka and Rebecca.
Thank you so much, Irene. One thing I just wanted to say, we have over 500 people watching on YouTube, and I just wanted to give a shout out to the folks that didn't get to make it into the Zoom and are on YouTube. There's a great conversation going on there as well. And I'll remind everyone, I think we've been asked at least 50 times, this is being recorded. It will be available on YouTube. After, if you did sign up for the Zoom, you will also be sent the recording after the live stream and the webinar is over. So not to worry if you missed part of it at the beginning, you'll get the whole. And so let's go into some questions. So we did ask in our Facebook group. So if you're not a member of our Facebook group, join now. In our Facebook group, in our communities, in our online classes as well, we asked for people to send in questions ahead of time. So we're going to go through some of those questions first, and then we'll also look at the Q&A within the live stream as well. So one of the questions, and this is kind of like a summary of a lot of them, it could strong prompting skill eventually become as essential as copywriting or data analysis in marketing roles?
Yeah, and I think that's actually it's a good question. And I would say it doesn't apply only to copywriting. It's actually in all of your marketing kind of tasks. Prompting is indeed becoming really essential. It isn't going to be replacing your other skill. So it's not like, oh, now I only need to know prompting and AI is going to do the rest for me. It's not really like that, of course, right? So because your prompts are inspired by the background and the framework that you have about marketing. So you kind of know, okay, in good marketing, I take these different steps, but prompting will help me to kind of make this all crisper. And you can say, well, but for a copywriter, AI does a lot of the writing. Like, is the copywriter still necessary? And I would say yes, absolutely. It is really an interplay between the two. Prompting skills are going to be essential. And if you don't have them, then that's going to be an issue for many employers over time. And we already see it. Employers are asking for people who are what they often call it like AI natives, people who know how to work with AI and get the most out of AI. It will make you faster. It will help you. Again, it's your creative partner, but it's really the interplay between you knowing and understanding what good copy is, and then you being able to prompt to have the AI give you even more of that good copy back so you can blend the two together. So I would say, yes, it's super important. It isn't going to overtake the need to also know how to write, etc. But it is definitely going to be an important skill.
Great, thank you so much. So another question that we got a lot of is, do you find clarity or creativity to be more important when writing prompts? Or is it about striking the right balance?
It's actually, I would say, there isn't really one that's more important than the other. It is really about striking the right balance. Like, it's like, okay, you want to try to get creative elements out of the AI, but you also want to be very clear in what you ask for. So therefore, kind of your clear command and your boundaries are necessary. Then you get an answer back, and then it's really where those techniques come in, right? To help you kind of have that creative element. And I would say, don't forget about your own creativity either. So AI is going to come back with a few creative ideas, and that is great, right? So you saw like the captions for the college students, for instance. But hey, maybe I have a caption that I was thinking about, or I have something that I think is really interesting and creative, and I want to throw that in there. Or I know something that I think will strike a nerve with our brand. So then I can play those things back to the AI and further iterate on those particular kind of prompts that I give it, right? So it's that kind of interplay between your creativity, AI's creativity, but always kind of your clarity about what you're asking for. So the two are important. And I don't think that by using AI, you have to think of it as I lose some of my own creativity. It's not like that. You have to bring that creativity to the task that you give AI.
And Andre, I think you've already answered this kind of in that last piece, but I'm going to ask it anyway, just in case there's something you want to add. So many people suggest using frameworks for prompts, just like you showed throughout this presentation. But could they be too restrictive or leave little room for creativity?
Right. And I think that's often the fear that people have around using frameworks, right? What I think is that the framework gets you on the right track. Use that. You can kind of be sure that you've thought about all the elements that you needed to think about. So I haven't forgotten anything. So I've started with that. But then add things like, for instance, the role play. So put that in there to accelerate some of the creativity, ask for more than one kind of answer, and then iterate on the answers. So use the framework as like a good starting point. But again, do not stop with just one answer. When you got one answer back, don't feel like, oh, now I have it and it's all good and I'm done. No, actually, if you want that creativity, make sure to further interact with AI to kind of get more of that to come out. So don't see the framework as something that would kill your creativity, but really use this like, hey, this is like an easy hook for me to kind of stay on track. It should be that.
So we have another question that's really about cross-platforms. So how do you prompt for short form content like TikTok captions that differ from those longer form content? Like if you're writing articles or posts that really want a longer format on like LinkedIn or LinkedIn.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Actually, that's a good question. You will. So first, of course, the command that you give needs to make clear whether you want a short form back or a long form back, right? So that's for sure. If you're going to go for long form, the context you're going to have to provide is going to be more elaborate. So that's going to be very important. Say, for instance, if you think about, okay, I want to do a blog post on LinkedIn, you will have to give AI more information on what you want that blog post to be about, right? So if you have if you have an idea in mind, a narrative, there's something like you want to bring across, that's kind of the through line of what you hope your blog post is going to be, you're going to have to give that in your command in as context, basically, in your prompt. You'll need less of that for your TikTok video. That could be like, yeah, but a little bit AI can get you a long way, right? Even though sometimes more context there can help as well, right? So there isn't really, the prompts themselves aren't going to be, it's not necessarily too different, but I would say you'll need a lot more that you need to input if you want longer form back.
I think that's a great answer to that. I'd also just remind everyone about the iterative process that Anka taught throughout the presentation, and that if you keep your kind of brand in mind and you have a cross-platform play in mind to begin with, starting with your longer form content first, getting a great response there, and then asking questions iteratively when you're in your AI tool, whichever tool you decide to use, you can narrow that focus, but then you're going to hopefully stay on track as you are narrowing to the different platforms and changing it. So great, great question. And great response. Thank you. Another question from learners is, how can marketers ensure their prompts produce content that feels original and true to their brand voice?
That is again where a brand guideline comes in, right? So what you want to make sure is that before you start interacting with AI, that you've thought through what you want your brand to stand for. So it's an element of creativity that kind of comes in there. You typically kind of know what you want a brand to reflect. And a lot of that also relates back to your target audience. So you really have to think about, okay, who am I trying to appeal to? This is the group that I think needs my product. Now, I know I want to appeal to them, so what are the types of things that typically appeal to these people? Then, mixed with my own creativity, I'm going to come up with my brand story. What is my brand all about? What does my brand stand for? What are the colors that my brand uses? What is the type of tone my brand typically strikes when it talks? And then what are the colors, the logo, etc., right? The font. All of that typically goes into a document. You write all of that down. That's your brand guideline. And that brand guideline is what you then upload to AI in ChatGPT or in Gemini, or you just attach it. You attach it as a file, it will read through it. So it is kind of tuned to think like your brand. So that's really how you kind of make sure that it still thinks in your brand's voice. Of course, when the output comes back, it's of course on you to assess, like, hey, did it really do what I hoped it would do? And does this really feel like our brand? And you may judge that it doesn't, because you're often the best judge of that if it is your brand. And then you kind of redirect AI. You say this or this was not really on brand. Or this is not how I like to talk. I like to say it more this way. So those types of interactions can help you then fine tune and make sure that everything stays on brand.
That's great. And I think the iteration, and this has been a theme I think that I've heard throughout your presentation too, is that you, as the person who is prompting, are really part of the behavior. You're the author, and you're the editor, and you're the person who is going to decide, is this right for my brand? And so I think having that person there is crucial throughout.
Absolutely. I think so. And it actually, it's almost like you can think of AI a little bit. It's like your dream marketing assistant, right? Who can help you with all kinds of things, wears many hats. But yeah, to have that dream assistant, you have to make sure that you get that interaction going so that you can teach the assistant what it is that is the right answer and what is not so much the right answer from your point of view. So you have to tell that as well. So I think that interaction will really help.
Thank you so much. So, if a marketer wants to improve their prompting skills this month, what's one practice or habit you'd recommend?
Well, I would really say, like, yeah, go back to your kind of whatever your favorite tool is, right? ChatGPT, Gemini, Copilot, and try prompting using this CCC framework and then using these techniques to iterate on your on the answers that you get. So that would be my one. It's like really try to practice as much as possible. And really use that framework in your practice. And then I would also say, and this is kind of then not one thing, but then it's two things, but also try it out on a tool that's maybe a little bit more specific. Like go, and I always keep mentioning Adobe Firefly. That's largely because you get a few free tries there. So go to Adobe and see what you can get out in terms of images or visual responses, right? Because now we've looked a lot at kind of the language part or the captions that you can write. But the visual responses, see how that works with this prompting framework and practice that as well. Try it out because it's really, it doesn't hurt to practice. It helps you get better at understanding what kind of prompt really gives me the best result here. So I would say, go and try it out. That's kind of the one thing to do this month.
That's great. And so we have some questions around ethics, trust, responsibility. So one of the questions that I think is really relevant, which is what responsibility do marketers have to disclose if a piece of content was heavily shaped by prompting or AI generation?
Yeah, it's a good question. And we touched on that in our previous webinar as well. It's actually, so using AI in marketing is very common. So it's not like you have to be embarrassed that you used it and you therefore would like to hide it. That would not be the right practice. The right practice is to actually, if you have a result that really you would say is almost entirely generated by AI, then flag it as such. If you have written a blog post where you got a lot of help from ChatGPT, then it's fine to say so in the in the kind of footnote or something like that. There's even platforms like, for instance, in Meta, you'll find that if you post something on Instagram and it is largely generated by AI, you can add a label to your post that reflects that. And it's good practice to do that. It's honest, it's fine. Of course, if you've had a little bit of help from AI on like writing a caption for an Instagram post, or like you chatted back and forth with ChatGPT, you don't have to always disclose that. But if you really feel like this entire post is really an AI based creation, it's good to put that there as a source. So that's kind of a good practice. And I think we as marketers have to kind of stick to that, because a lot more of AI generation will happen in marketing. And over time, it's good, I think, to alert people to the fact that this is generated with artificial intelligence.
Great. So we have another question here. So this is really a question to you specifically. What's the most surprising result you've personally seen from a well-crafted prompt?
That's a good question. Actually, I have to say, like, sometimes I've just in general been surprised as how many new creative things like AI can come up with for me. Like, for instance, in this water bottle thing, when we were preparing this, I'm like, well, it's kind of interesting that it comes up with all these kind of college kind of like supposedly appealing to a college audience captions. And I hadn't expected this many. This kind of, yeah, that's surprising. And some of them were actually, I thought, pretty cool and witty, right? So so that part to me is sometimes surprising, kind of the creative elements that I get back. I am personally not so. I love kind of creating marketing courses and writing captions, all of that stuff. I really, really, really like it, but I cannot define myself as creative mind. I'm not. So, and I know because I often kind of go to Rebecca for some creative elements, because that's just not my strong suit. And it's amazing to see then that AI can actually help me with some of that. And maybe some really creative people will still judge like, oh, it could have been better. But for me, this is already really good. So that creativity that AI can bring back to me is really helpful. So that's been surprising at times. And then just overall, and I would say this at a little bit more of a meta level, but just the amount of time that AI in general saves me, and how good of a tool it has been to help me create faster, but also just be better at rethinking things. I can interact with AI to think about kind of certain concepts that I have in mind, see whether they're actually right, reflect with AI whether this work, have more iterations. worked out together with AI. So that type of interaction I've appreciated a lot, and that's been great for me. So yeah, so some surprises in there and some just general good time-saving help.
And we have a few questions, but time for a few more questions.
Yeah.
And a couple of these questions are from the chat. So
Mhm.
one of them is, how do you refine responses that sound really bland even after follow-up prompts? Is there a way to pre-train the AI before prompting?
Yeah, so actually, that is again comes down to context. Like it's really so if the response that you get is bland, it's good to provide it more context around. So if it's in the marketing sphere, right, typically it's around your brand, your audience, but also think about if you're trying to work around a certain product, what are the specific benefits? What's the differentiator of my product? And try to feed those into AI as well as context to kind of get answers that are more to the point. But kind of that pre-training element, I would say that's really about giving AI information upfront. So use those attachments, right? So the attachment options that you get, definitely use that and tell AI, maybe even before you start prompting, you might say, I'm going to provide you context. First piece of context I'm giving you is my brand guidelines. Second piece of context, my persona. Third piece of context is some product benefits. And then you can say, and now I would like you to do this, and you're kind of you have to think about those boundaries, right? So that may help to make the answers more crisp. And then you can start iterating from there. And sometimes if you feel that it is too bland, you may still say, hey, these answers are bland. You can just really tell AI, like, these are bland. Think about my brand, my persona. How can I make this more unique? So those are things to kind of try to steer it to something that fits your brand better.
Another thing that I like to do when I'm prompting, if I'm really stuck and I'm just not getting it, is find other brands that I feel are like inspirational or are hitting the mark in their social or their advertising.
Yeah.
And then give that as an example to the AI. Say like, here's some brands that I think have a fantastic tone. Can you articulate what the tone and voice is for me? And maybe it's just a little different than what I had in my brand guidelines. Maybe I can tweak the response that way to help prompt a little bit more refined. So asking AI like and giving it feedback, like you said, Anka, like saying, these are bland, I just don't like them. Can you give me some other options? I think are really great tools. And I know we talk about this a lot, that we're very conversational with the AI. So as we start to iterate, we do say things like, oh, that was a great response. And it's incorporated, I believe it's incorporated into the thread. So it knows that that one was really good. And maybe it's going to do a little bit more like that, or this one wasn't really hitting the mark. Um, let's see, I think we have uh, time for one more question. Eileen, I'm looking to you. Is that fair? Okay. So we have a few questions, but they're all kind of under this theme. So one of them is about verifying if the hashtags or trends are actually trending, with the audience or group, or what's the impact and reach. All of these, I would say, are really about kind of like what's on you to figure out, like how much do you trust the AI versus how much do you take what it's telling you. Just kind of firsthand and then use it. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Absolutely. And I think that's still something that you have to keep in mind. So all the output you get, you do have to double check to make sure that it is correct. So as it goes for trending hashtags, yes, do check whether they actually are trending, and also check on what the trend entails, right? What do you see when you type in the hashtag, and do you want to be part of that, right? Is this really the right one? Is it right for your audience, etc.? I'd also say, like, when it comes to trending hashtags, sometimes it's a good idea to prompt specifically saying, like, hey, give me hashtags that are helping me for discoverability, for instance, and that are trending right now on Instagram or that are trending right now on TikTok. And it will then go out to the web to search for those, right? So that's kind of a good practice. But once you get them, do make sure that they actually are right. And this goes for other output from AI as well, right? Whether you may use it for very different reasons and something that's not marketing related, yeah, it still makes mistakes. The models that we get are getting better and better and better, and they're amazing, but it still makes mistakes. Sometimes they even hallucinate, right? So you do have answers that may not be entirely what you would like. So there is still some responsibility that comes with it to make sure that everything is correct. And hashtag is something that you do need to check indeed. Yeah.
Great, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hand it back over to you.
Amazing. Thank you both. Anka and Rebecca, thank you for your knowledge and for sharing with the group here all of these really insightful answers to the questions that our learners asked. And everybody who joined, thank you guys so much today for being here. You all asked amazing questions. I loved seeing all the activity in the chat. And we had an equal amount, if not more, folks join over on YouTube as well. So this is an exciting event to get to hold, and I know that we're going to plan future events. So keep an eye out. If you've opted in to hear about news from Aptly, we will definitely be sending out some future events for you to join. If you join the Facebook group and our YouTube channel, you'll hear about future events as well. And the recordings, of course, will be sent via email tomorrow. So you can catch the live recording on YouTube immediately after this event ends. And thank you, everybody who answered the poll. It's been open for about 20 minutes now, and we have about 183 suggestions for future Aptly learning event topics. So we will absolutely consider them all and figure out what our schedule is going to look like for the end of this year and heading into the new year. So thank you, everyone. We appreciate you all. And thank you to the team here as well at Aptly for helping to maintain order in these rooms and keep these emails going. Thanks, Anka.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks, everyone. And thanks to the team, because it takes a bit to get this up and running. So thank you.
Bye, everyone. Take care.
Thanks. Bye.